So it was 1:07 p.m. and I hadn't eaten again. I was running 10 minutes behind again, and I was rushing to wrap up a session that had already gone like 20 minutes over. My stomach was growling, my brain was complete and total mush, and I had zero buffer before I needed to see the next client. The only thing I'd really had all day was a cold cup of coffee, collagen bar that I literally inhaled between back to back calls, like, a wild raccoon on a dumpster or something like that. And my calendar was jammed from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., barely enough time to pee, let alone think or breathe. And every single appointment just kind of felt like it was going on forever and ever. I was just trying to squeeze more and more clients into every available crack that I had on my calendar because I still needed to make more money. And so at the time, I was either charging by the hour or I was selling these kind of custom Kendra style packages and kind of hoping they'd last long enough to justify the time I was putting into them. And I just couldn't keep up. I was exhausted. I didn't have the amount of money I needed. And worst of all, I was burning out in the process and actually making myself sicker. Now, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I got into this business because I was dealing with chronic fatigue and I was trying to figure it out. And then at this point, this is like a couple of years into my business was feeding that fatigue and feeding the stress. Okay. And that was the moment that I knew that it was not sustainable. I didn't want to have a boss. I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. But this is not what I was getting, right? I figured, I'm like, okay, there's got to be another way. And I started looking what other people were doing online, and I did find another way. Now, when we go to our certification program, our professional education, like whatever we do to get certified as a coach or practitioner, we get a diploma, we get a degree, we get, a certification, whatever, right? And we are typically just told to see clients. Now, I interviewed a student of mine not that long ago, Poppy Burr, someone who's had a lot of success in HCA. And I remember that's exactly what she said. She went to school to be a herbalist, and they're like, great, now just start seeing clients. And sort of the assumption is, well, if I'm good at helping people, if I'm good at what I do, then I will get busy with clients. And yeah, you can get busy with clients, especially, if you're a licensed health professional and you're collecting insurance, right? You're seeing people in person, you're billing insurance. If you're a naturopath, you're a dietitian, something like that, it's actually not so hard, especially if you live in a smaller town like I do. Like all the naturopathic doctors, the acupuncturists, the massage therapists, the chiropractors tend to be pretty booked up. But the problem with that model is that it's not great for you as the practitioner, and it doesn't really serve the client either. And in my opinion, this model burns most practitioners out, and it doesn't facilitate client results in the best way that it could. Now, obviously there are outliers. I have friends, where I live, I have a lot of friends who are massage therapists and acupuncturists and that sort of thing. And some people totally thrive on that model, right? But some people don't. And I think it tends to be the more introverted people, right? The people who get overwhelmed seeing people over and over and over again. And when I first started my business, I had an office and I would see people in person. And I actually found that like face-to-face interaction at first, it was great. And it really kind of lit me up, probably because I was just so passionate. I was just so excited not to be doing forestry anymore and to not be bartending and to not be waitressing. And I was just like, yes, this is great. But as I did that more and more and I got busier and busier, it really did start to burn me out. And I really started to feel exhausted. And so then I tried to transition to doing most of it online. And it was a similar thing. When you're staring at the screen all day, it's just exhausting, right? And I think our ideal of success, or what people make you believe success is when you're new, is being booked out, right? Like having a roster full of clients. And yes, that is some level of success, but it also leads to you having no life. And then when you're not booked or you have a slower season, then you're panicking about bills. And I think either way, you're just not getting freedom. And then this doesn't serve the client, because I truly believe for people to get a result, there needs to be some sort of upfront commitment and bigger exchange of value versus money. Okay. Now, I am someone who will go to physio, and I will typically pay like $100 for that hour physio session. But we all know that with physio, if you don't go home and do the exercises, it doesn't matter that you booked that appointment, right? And so when I was working on just kind of getting my posture back in alignment, because after I had a baby, I have a very short torso. And I mean, my back was like arched. If you're watching me on YouTube, my back was literally arched for the last like 6 weeks of pregnancy. And my posture got really messed up, and I'm already a little lordotic. I think that's how you say it. I have a bit of an over curvature of the spine in my lower back. Nothing crazy, but it's definitely there. And pregnancy made that worse. And so I went and saw a pelvic floor specialist, not to work on pelvic floor, but to work on sort of recorrecting the posture. And I remember we got to the point where she was like, well, like, you've got the exercises, you can just go do your thing. And I was like, I'm still going to commit to seeing you for the next 6 months, because if I don't come and see you every 4 to 6 weeks, I will not do these exercises. So I actually paid for a bunch of sessions up front, because I knew that I needed that accountability, right? So I think when we just allow people to purchase as needed sessions, they're not necessarily going to get the result unless they are one of those people who are very motivated, have a ton of willpower and discipline, which is not most people, right? And so I don't think that actually facilitates client results, because if they just come to one session from you, and maybe they're just one of those people who just have like the odd thing, they just want a little bit of advice, maybe that's all they need. That is not most people. A lot of people have a lot of things going on, and they need to see you multiple sessions, multiple times in order to get the results. So I don't think this model of single sessions or trading time for money, charging hourly, serves you or the client. And then when you start to get busy, like I was, you don't have time for anything. And this is how I found myself working like 50-hour weeks, because I was trying to squeeze in all these client appointments, but I still had to market my business. I still had to do bookkeeping. I still had to do admin stuff. I still had to answer emails. And I realized that I traded my 50-hour-a-week forestry job for a 50-hour-a-week desk job. The difference is I didn't take the winters off like I did in forestry, and I was exhausted, right? Now, when I moved to packages, now I think packages are 100% a step up from charging hourly and from trading or selling single sessions, right? Now, when we sell packages, you can charge higher. You can get that upfront commitment. So I think this is better for client results significantly, because, we're getting people to commit to more upfront. Like maybe they get, if you're working with labs, for example, they get their labs, they get their test result sessions, maybe they get an intake, and then they get some follow-ups. I think that is really great, because it's more structured, it's more value-based, right? It's less of the nickeling and diming energy, right? But there's also a trap, because while packages, again, are better for client results, they are better for you because, you work with less clients, which I believe is always the goal. Like, I think as ethical practitioners who want to help people and want to see people get results, we want to work with people deeper and not wider, right? We want to be able to go deeper with people and support people on a deeper level. But when we are creating custom packages for each and every person, it's also hard on our time. Now, when I was creating packages, I didn't really have a niche. I sort of said I had a niche. I'm like, oh yeah, I help women with female hormone imbalance. But, I wasn't really doing a good job of messaging that and being clear on that. So ultimately, I was working with all kinds of people. I had people come to me for acne. I'd have people come to me for hormonal issues. I had a woman coming to me for MS. I had people coming to me for joint pain, for fibromyalgia, for Lyme, like everything. And all of these conditions, well, what we do as coaches, the baseline of what we do can help everyone. There are nuances to these different health conditions. And there are different things that tend to be more helpful for these health conditions. So I was just researching. I was spending so much time on PubMed. I was looking at studies. I was like, okay, like, what's the best thing for the MS person? What's the best thing for the acne client? How am I going to help this woman with crazy menopausal hormones, right? And I was just constantly second guessing myself. And I really felt like a jack of all trades and a master of none. And I was working nonstop, but I had a really low self-worth because I just didn't feel like an expert in anything. And I was always really stressed out about what people were going to ask me because I was like, man, I have all these different clients with all these different problems. They could ask me anything. And I really just don't know the answer. So that was really the moment where I was like, I need a new model. I need a new way of doing something. I need something that not only serves my clients, but is actually sustainable for me. And so this is where I really started to recognize the value of having a niche and really focusing on one person, one condition, one symptom, one problem, one diagnosis, whatever that is, because I was like, well, now I could actually be an expert in it. I can go all in on this one topic and actually understand the nuances of it, understand how to explain what is going on, and really recognize how to help these people. And so I really focused in on helping women in their 30s who were active outdoor enthusiasts with fatigue. And it was around this time that I started learning about a signature online program. And so this is the truth. If you don't have a signature program, you are going to struggle in 2025. You are going to struggle to get clients. Now, I talk a lot about signature programs, but if you're brand new, don't worry, I'm going to define this. So a signature program is a program that is focused on one type of person with a very specific problem. So in my situation, I was focusing on active women in their 30s with fatigue, right? So all my messaging spoke to that. And my program accommodated that because I had people who were very passionate about being active, who are outdoor enthusiasts. Like, they still wanted to be able to do their things. If they had come into my program and I was going to say, rest, you can't exercise anymore, you can't go out into the mountains anymore, that would have been horrible, right? They would have been like, I'm not doing this program, I'm overwhelmed, I need to do these things. So I made sure my program helped them with fatigue, but also accommodated who they were, their identity as an outdoor enthusiast, their identity as an active woman in their 30s. And I was like, hey, you don't have to stop doing the things, but this is how we're going to support it. And this is how you can balance it with your healing. Okay. So a signature program is not just 12 modules duct taped together. Okay. It's your process. It's your brain. It's your magic organized into a roadmap. It has a very clear client journey with steps, milestones, and structure. Okay. And this is really important because, and this is also why the market, today's online market, demands a signature program, because it needs to look different than something they've done before. Most people at this point have purchased a course to help solve their problem. They maybe worked with another practitioner and they are not going to invest their money in something that they've already done before that looks the same as everything else on the market. So with a signature program, what you are creating is a unique methodology. This is your proprietary method, which means that it's different. It sets you apart. It has a name. It has steps, ideally 3 to 7 steps. And it is based on your experience, your professional education, and your philosophy. So it's actually very easy for it to be different because as practitioners and coaches, we are all very uniquely different. We have done different trainings. We have different personal experience. We have different life experience. We have different philosophies. And what I mean by that is we could both be weight loss coaches, but your way of going about it is to focus on macros and, kind of strategizing macros. But my method is more about plant-based. I believe that you lose weight through a plant-based model. You believe that we lose weight through, fasting and macros, right? So it's different, like same outcome, same problem, but different method. Okay. And this is, again, is very important because this is what sets you apart. If you just have a package, if you just have 12 modules or whatever it is, people don't care about that. They want to see that you have a very structured, repeatable process that helps them move from A to B. Okay. Your program really needs to feel unique to the person of whom you want to work with, not just a random online course, right? And this will help you get better client results because you have this repeatable process. Now, people get a little bit tripped up on this because they're like, well, I don't believe in a one size fits all approach, but a signature program is not a one size fits all approach. But it does start with figuring out what all your clients need. Because truthfully, when I was helping people, I was telling people to do a lot of the same things based on the research I was doing and based on my philosophy. I was like, I believe you need to eat this type of diet. Now, does that mean that there was no customization to the diet? Absolutely not. We did a full intake, we ran labs, and I would say, eat this type of diet, but you know what? You really need to focus on this type of food because your labs are indicating it. Or, you know what? Eat this type of diet, but remove this food from your diet because based on your intake, I don't think this food is helping you, right? So there is still customization, but it's always layered on top of that methodology, right? And yes, our clients are unique, but they're not so unique that they need completely different things, especially not when you're helping the same type of person with the same type of problem. Okay. And so when you have this repeatable process, it gives you more confidence, it gives you more authority, and it gives you more clarity in the content that you deliver that eventually leads to your offer. Now, the other important thing about a signature program is that it makes your selling process easier. Because the thing that you need to be able to do in order to sell your offer is you need to be able to clearly communicate why your offer is different than other things that they've done and why it's the best option, right? And so when you have one compelling signature offer, you don't need to explain the 4 different packages you have and why they're different, because that can be really hard to do, right? You have this one thing and you are an expert in that one thing. And it's also very easy for you to communicate why your offer is different because you have that unique methodology. This is my process. Here's a visual of my process. This is why it works. This is why it's different, right? For example, if you come into Health Coach Accelerator, you are going to do our 5-step signature program success system. Okay, it's different than other things you have done because it is a very clear path that does things in a very particular order and leverages some very key things. Okay, it's different than what you've done before, and because it's different is the reason why you haven't gotten results, because you have not done the signature program success system. Okay. Just know that clarity sells, period, right? It's easier to create content when you are just focusing on one offer to help one type of person with one type of problem. It's easier to write emails. It's easier to do sales calls. It's easier to communicate why what you do is different. Okay. So the signature program, you need this in 2025 and beyond, not only for client results and your own sanity, but also for the purposes of standing out, marketing, and selling. The online world is very busy. I would even go so far to say it's saturated. Now, 2 years ago, I'd say, no, it's not saturated. It's not saturated. It's saturated. Let's be honest. So the most important thing for you to be successful is to be able to distinguish what you do and how it's different from other coaches and practitioners online. And the signature program with a very clear niche, a very specific niche, and that very unique methodology that is different, right? 3 to 7 steps, whatever you think that is, based on your experience, your education, your philosophy, having a visual for it. So you can say, here's the 5-step process. That is what is going to set you apart. And the more you get clear on that, the easier it becomes to communicate. And then all your marketing and sales process relies around that. Okay. So if you are not selling a signature online coaching program, you will struggle, period. Not just for you, but for your clients. Your clients don't want to just come and work with you and have you spew tons of different information at them that's not structured. And then you send them a recording of a 75-minute Zoom meeting that you have them listen to that they have to go back to. People want structure. They want process. They want structure. They want a roadmap. They want it to be as simple as possible. And just spewing information at them, giving them different things every time is not going to do that. Okay. So the journey is to go from hourly, potentially move to packages, but ideally end up at a signature program. Okay. Now, in a couple weeks, I am bringing back the Create and Sell Your Signature Program Challenge. Is going to be a 4-day free event that kicks off September 8th, and registration is going to open on August 25th. So I will definitely be talking about this more on the podcast. So just tune in. But this is going to be awesome. It is, basically an online course for free, 4 days of training, 4 days of feedback. We're going to go through determining your niche and the topic for your program. We're going to build out that unique methodology so you're very clear on that. We're going to be talking about pricing, and we're going to be talking about selling, how to actually get this program to market, a customized launch plan for you based on exactly where you are in your business. So that is coming up soon. So stay tuned. And I know I'm a little bit of a broken record on this, but I talk to so many coaches and practitioners online, and most people do not have a signature program and they are struggling to sell. And this is one of the first steps in making everything easier for both you and your clients. All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Wealthy Coach Podcast. I will see you next Monday, same time, same place, where I help you become wealthy AF.